I was on my way to see my son, clutching a homemade sandwich and praying he'd remember the man I used to be. And an old man in rags stepped on. The priority seats were full of people looking at their phones, ignoring him. Then the bus lurched. He stumbled. I caught him before he hit the floor.
I never thought that one act of kindness would be the thing that saved my life. But when we both got off at the same stop and walked into my son's high-priced law firm together, and when my son saw that shabby old man and turned as white as a sheet, I realized I hadn't helped just anyone. The next 10 minutes were about to change my world forever. Tell me where you're watching from, your city and your country. Then answer me this: do you believe one moment of kindness can save your entire life? Drop your city and the word believe if you do. What I'm about to tell you is going to prove you right. My name is Jack Coleman. This is the truth of what happened. I checked my watch, 2:25 p.m., my meeting with my son. Douglas wasn't until 5, but I wanted to be early. Maybe we could actually talk. I even made the meatloaf sandwich he used to love when he was a kid. The Route 15 bus pulled up at 2:30 sharp. I climbed on, paid my fare, and saw every seat was taken near the priority section. A young guy in his 20s was sprawled across the blue-marked bench. Expensive kicks, white earbuds, totally checked out. 3 stops later, an old man climbed the steps. He had to be 80 at least. His coat was threadbare, his shoes were splitting at the seams, and he had no gloves in the Boston cold. He was breathing hard. "Excuse me, son," the old man said politely. "Would you mind?" The kid didn't even look up, just kept nodding to his music. I spoke up. "Hey, that's priority seating." The kid pulled out one earbud, looking annoyed. He shrugged and put the bud back in. "I'm good." Right then, the bus lurched through a yellow light. The old man went flying. He reached for the rail and missed. I dropped my bag and caught him by the elbow just before his head hit the floor. "I've got you, sir," I said. He was gasping, clutching my arm. I turned back to the kid. "That's enough. Get up." "I'm not." He almost cracked his skull. I snapped. I pulled out my phone. "If you don't stand up right now, I'm recording this and posting it. Let the world see exactly who you are." He looked at my phone, then at the other passengers who were already staring. "Whatever," he muttered, shoving past me to the back. I helped the old man into the seat. He let out a grateful sigh. "Thank you, truly." I picked up my bag, relieved the sandwich was still intact. The old man looked up at me with pale blue eyes that held a strange amount of respect. "Not many people stand up for a stranger anymore," he said. "My dad taught me to speak up when something's wrong," I replied. He smiled, but it was a thoughtful smile, like he was studying me. I stood there, gripping the rail, thinking about Douglas. I was 62, heading to a skyscraper with a sandwich and a prayer. I didn't notice how often the old man glanced at me, or the glint in his eyes, like he'd just made a decision that would shift the future. "What's in the bag?" he asked, after a moment. "Meatloaf sandwich, my son's favorite." His eyes softened. "He's a lucky man to have a father like you." "Lucky," I whispered. "If only he knew. I'm meeting him at Commonwealth Law Firm. He's a big-time lawyer there." Something flickered in the old man's expression. Commonwealth. That's a prestigious place. He worked hard for it. I'm proud of him. I just wish... I stopped. The words were pulling out of me. "He wants me to sign some papers today. The house I've lived in for 25 years. It's in his name. Now he wants me to sign it over officially, take a small payment, and move on." The old man was quiet. Then he spoke, his voice firm. "A father's love is priceless. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." At downtown crossing, the old man rose. "Where are you heading?" I asked. reaching out to help him. "One financial center," he said, with a mysterious smile. "Same as you." We walked together through the suits and briefcases of the financial district. I felt out of place, but the old man walked those streets like he owned them. My mind drifted back 25 years, the year 2000. Douglas was 9. We lived in a 200-square-foot room in Dorchester with a hot plate and a bathroom down the hall. He slept on the couch. I slept on the floor. Every morning at 5 a.m., I'd wake up, make his breakfast, and walk him to school before heading to whatever carpentry job I could find. I gave him everything, so he'd never have to stand where I was standing. I didn't realize that the man walking beside me was 3 moves ahead in a game I didn't even know we were playing. The money was never enough. But then I saw it. 47 Dorchester Avenue, a small house with peeling paint and a sagging porch, but it had a yard where Douglas could play. What a 180,000! I didn't have it, but I had hope. I sold my pickup for $8,000, borrowed from every coworker I had, and took on 3 jobs. I worked 18-hour days for 6 months straight until I finally had the down payment, $36,000. The bank said no. My income was too low. I tried 3 more banks and got the same answer. I was ready to quit when the agent said, "Put it in your son's name. Easier for inheritance. You make the payments. He gets the deed. It's what families do." It made sense. He was my blood. $647 a month for 25 years. I never missed a payment. Not once. I fixed the roof, I painted the walls, and I watched Douglas grow up there. I paid his tuition, his law school, his rent. I worked myself to the bone so he could be great. But somewhere along the way, my boy disappeared. The calls got shorter. The visits stopped. This morning, I got a text. "Meet me at 5, sign the papers, and go. The house is worth $420,000 now. Douglas wants me to sign it over for $15,000, less than half of my original down payment. $15,000 for 25 years of my life." I stared at that message for an hour. Then I made his favorite sandwich and decided to show up early. I thought if he saw me, he'd remember who we were. "Mr. Coleman." The old man's voice snapped me back. One financial center stood before USA, tower of glass and steel, rising 28 stories into the gray sky. My son was up there, waiting to erase me. I clutched the paper bag and looked at the old man. I didn't know why he was still with me, but I didn't want to be alone. The lobby was built to intimidate. Polished marble, crystal chandeliers, and gold-framed portraits of the firm's founders, the kings of the legal world. I felt like a ghost in worn jeans. The old man, though, was calm. He studied those portraits like he was recognizing old friends. At the desk, the receptionist's smile died when she saw my calloused hands and my grease-stained paper bag. "Can I help you?" her tone said. I didn't belong. "I'm here to see Douglas Coleman. I'm his father." She stared at me like I'd spoken a different language. Before she could call up, a man in a tailored suit walked past. Austin Reynolds, one of Douglas's hotshot colleagues. "Rachel," he said, loud enough to echo. "Who's the old guy? Looks lost. He says he's Douglas Coleman's father." Austin froze, then pulled out his phone, smirking. "Boss, yeah, your dad's here in the lobby, holding a paper bag." I couldn't hear the reply, but Austin's face went cold. "Yes, sir, I'll tell him." 10 minutes later, the elevator doors hissed open. My son stepped out, 34 years old, in a suit that cost more than I made in a month. He saw me, and his jaw tightened. He grabbed my arm and dragged me into a corner. "What are you doing here?" Hissed. I said 5 o'clock. I was worried about traffic, son. And I made this for you, your favorite meatloaf. I held up the bag. He looked at it like it was garbage. I don't want that. Douglas, please, can we just talk? No. You were supposed to sign the papers and leave. That was the deal. His voice rose, drawing eyes from across the lobby. Do you have any idea where you are? This is Commonwealth Law, the most prestigious firm in Boston. My colleagues are watching. My boss might walk through that door any second, and you're standing here looking like a homeless person. Douglas, you're embarrassing me, he shouted. The words hit harder than a physical blow. Rachel looked away. Austin smirked. I stood there clutching that sandwich, feeling 62 years old and completely invisible. But I wasn't invisible to everyone. The old man from the bus was leaning against the wall, watching. The kindness was gone from his face. Now his eyes were cold and calculating, the look of a judge who had just heard the final piece of evidence. I've worked years for this reputation, Douglas snapped. I don't need your charity, and I don't need you. The tears came then. I couldn't stop them. Son, please. I don't care, Douglas said, turning his back. You know what I need? I need you out of my life, Douglas snarled. He pulled a folder from under his arm and slapped it against my chest. That house, it's mine. The deed, says Douglas Coleman. Sign this, take your 15 grand, and disappear. My hands shook, but I paid for it. Every cent, 25 years. Douglas, I don't care. Legally, it's mine. You have no rights. I never missed a payment. That was your choice. He was screaming now, his face contorting. Nobody forced you. You did it because you're weak. The old man from the bus stepped forward, his voice calm but heavy. Young man, that's no way to speak to your father. Douglas spun around, his eyes wild. Who the hell are you? Security. Get these bums out of here now. He looked at me with pure contempt. This was my son, the boy I'd worked 3 jobs for, the man I'd sacrificed my youth to build. And he was calling me a bum in front of the whole world. The old man stood perfectly still. Something shifted in his eyes, something cold and final. It was the look of a judge who had just heard a defendant confess to a heinous crime. Then the elevator chimed. A man in a gray suit stepped out. Patrick Westfield, the managing partner. He stopped dead when he saw the scene. His star associate, Douglas, red-faced and screaming at 2 men in shabby clothes. Patrick looked at the old man in the threadbare coat. His face went white as bone. His briefcase slipped from his fingers and hit the marble floor with a crack. Judge, ... he whispered. Judge Fairchild. The lobby went deathly silent. Patrick walked forward and bowed from the waist. Your Honor? I didn't know you were visiting today. Douglas froze. What? Patrick turned to him, his voice shaking with rage and fear. Douglas, do you have any idea who you just tried to throw out? Look at the wall. Douglas looked at the portrait of the firm's founder. Then he looked at the old man. The color drained from his face until he looked like a ghost. No, he whispered. That's not good afternoon, Patrick, Judge Fairchild said. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the room. I took the bus today. I wanted to see how people treat each other when they think no one important is watching. He gestured to me. This man gave up his seat for me when not a single other soul would. He stood for 30 minutes so a stranger could sit. He didn't care about my clothes or my status. He just saw an old man who needed help. The judge's eyes locked onto Douglas. And then I came to my own firm and watched his own son treat him like garbage. Douglas's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Judge Fairchild, I didn't know it was you, Douglas stammered. I sincerely apologize. You're not sorry you insulted me. The judge cut him off like a blade. You're sorry you got caught. If I had been wearing a suit, would you have treated your father differently? Douglas couldn't answer. Patrick, the judge said, my office now. I want to hear about these papers Mr. Coleman is supposed to sign. We stepped into the elevator. Douglas was shaking so hard I thought he might collapse. The elevator chimed at the 28th floor. Inside the managing partner's office, the air was freezing. Judge Fairchild sat in a leather chair. Patrick took the folder from Douglas's trembling hands and read it. His face went from pale to gray. Property transfer and waiver. Douglas, in all my years, I have never seen anything more disgraceful than this. The judge looked at me. Mr. Coleman, you paid every cent of that mortgage for 25 years. Yes, sir. Not one missed payment. The judge looked at Douglas. And you wanted him to take $15,000, less than half his original down payment. The silence was deafening. Douglas finally looked up, trapped, realized the life he'd built on arrogance was about to crumble. Mr. Westfield, please, I can explain. You're fired. The words hit like a judge's gavel, effective immediately. Clean out your desk by tomorrow morning, but sir, get out. Douglas stood there, his legs barely supporting his weight. He looked at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. But what could he possibly say? He walked to the door, stopped, and turned back one last time. Dad, I just go. Douglas, my voice cracked. Just go. The door closed softly behind him. Judge Fairchild turned to Patrick. I want the Massachusetts Bar Association to hear every detail of this. Already on my list, Your Honor, Patrick replied. Then the judge looked at me. Mr. Coleman, I'm arranging for one of our best real estate attorneys to represent you. Pro bono. You won't pay a cent. The tears came then, and I didn't try to stop them. I don't know what to say. You already said it, Mr. Coleman, on that bus when you gave up your seat. He walked over and put a heavy, comforting hand on my shoulder. That's the kind of person this world needs more of. Judge Fairchild smiled. Now, would you join an old man for dinner? My treat. Be honored, sir. He picked up his threadbare coat, the one that had fooled everyone, and we headed for the door. As we descended in the elevator, Judge Fairchild looked at the paper bag still in my hand. You made a meatloaf sandwich, didn't you? Yes, sir. Douglas's favorite. May I? I handed it to him. He unwrapped it and took a big bite. Delicious. When the doors opened to the lobby, it was a sea of staring faces. Everyone had heard. The firm's golden boy had been struck down. We walked through the crowd in total silence. Outside, the January air hit us like a wall, sharp and clean. You know, Jack, the judge said as we walked down the Boston streets. I've been a judge for 43 years. I've heard thousands of testimonies. But I've rarely seen real character, the kind that doesn't need an audience, the kind that helps a stranger just because it's the right thing to do. 3 weeks later, I stood in front of my house. For the first time in 25 years, it was truly mine. I held the new deed in my hands, stamped and legal. Owner, Jack Coleman. Douglas was suspended from the bar for 6 months and put under investigation for fraud. His career wasn't over, but the shine was gone forever. A week ago, a 5-page letter arrived from him. Apologies, anger, and moments where he sounded like the little boy I used to know. I cried reading it, but I haven't answered yet. I need time. Judge Fairchild and I have dinner every Friday now. We hit a diner near Dorchester for meatloaf and coffee. Last week, he told me, Jack, you reminded me why I became a judge. To protect people like you. You saved my life, sir, I told him. He shook his head. No, Jack, you saved mine first. You reminded me that kindness still exists. The house looks smaller now, the porch sags, and the paint is peeling, but it's mine. I'm not rich, but I have a roof over my head, and a friend who really sees me looking back. I want to tell you, don't be like I was. Don't sacrifice everything for someone who might forget your name when you're no longer useful. Don't put someone else's name on your deed, thinking love is enough of a contract. I learned 3 hard lessons. Love your children, but don't lose yourself. A father's love should build a man up, not erase the father. Kindness is never wasted. That simple act on the bus changed my entire life. God saw me when I thought I was invisible. Your worth isn't measured by what you own. It's measured by who you are when nobody is looking. These grandpa stories aren't just entertainment. They are warnings wrapped in wisdom. If there's a Judge Fairchild in your life, thank them. If there's a Douglas taking you for granted, set your boundaries. God gave me a second chance on that bus, and he gave Douglas a second chance through consequences. We are all one choice away from being the hero or the villain in someone else's story. Which one will you be? If this story made you think, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Share this with someone who needs to remember that God sees every sacrifice. Write amen in the comments if you believe kindness always finds its way back to you. I'll see you in the next story. God bless.